Thank you. Turn the lights back up, please. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Whoa, here we go. My friends, as our chairman said, Yvonne Holliday, Victor Cook, and I have worked very hard to put together what we think is going to be a very impactful convention. We expect a lot of good information to be shared. We're going to solve some problems, but more important than everything else, we're hoping that we're going to start to pull together. The purpose for the video was to say just that. My friends, let's try to put this short speech, and it's going to be only 15 minutes, in a historical context. First of all, the only reason I accepted the job 5 years ago was because I was told that if you are serious about economic development for our community, there is no better place in the world to go to serve, to get that done, than the National Bankers Association. I accepted the job because I understood what it all meant. And then when Jim Young, my mentor, my coach, my trainer, introduced me to this great book, it's a black classic, The Negro as Capitalist, I understood why the role of the banker was so critical in terms of our success and evolution as a people. My friends, we are going through a second Reconstruction. You know, the civil rights movement ended about 50 years ago. It's not over, but it reached a crescendo, a high point, a zenith, with the March on Washington and Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. But for the next 45 years, we wandered in the desert. Our Moses was gone, and we started to get a little bit confused about what the next stage should be, what the next steps should be, and how do we continue to move forward. And then in 2008, something very important and historically significant happened. This country elected the first African American as its president. And 2 or 3 years after he was in office, I started to hear a lot of, especially business people, bemoan the fact that this didn't help us. I don't see that he's turned the great power of the White House to advance our cause. I was driving up from Nashville with Victor Cook, and Victor said, I've heard all of the complaints about what the president has not been able to accomplish. But Victor said, but it's very important that he was elected. And Victor was right, and I'll tell you why. The cosmic message about the ascendancy of Barack Obama to the highest office in this nation, the cosmic message was not that he was going to solve all of our problems. The cosmic message was, look what we can accomplish when we pull together. It's phenomenal. So here we are. In 2007, I got a report from someone that said African Americans were starting businesses faster than any other ethnic group in America. By the end of the Great Recession, we were at the end. We had lost over 50% of our collective wealth in this country. The subprime crisis was most devastating on our communities. And those of you who are running these banks felt the impact. But listen, friends, I have found out something watching and reading and observing our history. We as a people show our greatest strength during times of turmoil. We as a people pull together when we have to. You see, the integration movement confused us. We thought that we had arrived. We could come to the Hilton for a convention. We could drive whatever car we wanted to drive. We could even live almost anywhere we wanted to live. So we thought that we had arrived. So guess what we did? We moved out of our communities, and we took our money out of our communities. And we found out that integration had a toxic side effect. It diminished us in many ways. There were some successes, to be sure, and we should not play those down. But my friends, we have a new movement in front of us now, and it's an economic movement. We can no longer continue talking about the civil rights movement and rest on our laurels. If we are not talking about economic empowerment, we are not serious about carrying on the work of Dr. Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, Harriet B. Tubman, and Fannie Lou Hamer. If we are really serious about being first-class citizens, we have to be laser-focused on economic development. Why? We are living in a capitalistic system. And my friends, if you've paid close attention, you've observed, if you don't pull together and harness your resources, you will be marginalized. All of the negative metrics that you read in the paper, high school dropout rates, business failures, the value of homes, the rates of incarceration, take every negative metric that you've been reading about, and the African American community is right there being defined by those negative metrics. But we're not going to be disheartened. We're not going to be disheartened because just as we overcame so many times before, we are going to master capitalism. Victor Cook and I took a group of students from Howard University to Wall Street, and we wanted to go visit the folks who were up there managing money at BlackRock. We wanted to let these kids know what was possible. The guy, Obie McKenzie, who was our host, brought in about 8 or 9 African Americans who were managing some of the billions. And you know that BlackRock handles about $3.4 trillion. But I wanted those students to see some of the folks who are moving money at this level look just like you. We've got a lot of work to do, friends, but if we're going to do it, we're going to have to pull together. Now let's talk about the NBA. This has been 5 of the most fascinating years of my life. When I'm sitting in a boardroom, the bankers still treat me like I'm a first grade student. They do. They kind of look at each other like, what the hell does he know about what we're talking about? We're bankers. But I'll tell you something, my friends. I look at you differently. I look at you, the bankers, with nothing less than awe. I happen to know because people like Darius Davis is always there to help me along and tutor me because we go through the call reports and the Uniform Banking Performance Report, and I know what's going on. But I'll tell you something. You are some of the most resourceful people I have ever met in my life. You have done so much with so little for so long that people expect you to do damn near anything with nothing. It has been a great pleasure and a great honor to serve as president here, and I'll tell you why. I understand that you are at the epicenter of this economic movement. It is so vitally important. Bob Cooper helped me to understand so much when we went to visit Treasury, and we set up those meetings 3 or 4 years ago, Bob. Start to understand what is happening. Why is it that the NBA banks are not always getting their share of the pie? What's the problem with the public policy? It continued when Doyle came on, and we went in to talk to Treasury about the way they were winding down TARP. And they seemed like they were oblivious to a thing called FIREA, 1989, where the law of the land was we were to preserve these banks. We realized in these struggles that nobody is going to advance our agenda but us. We don't go angry, but we go unapologetically. We go with this understanding, friends. We have got to save these banks because it is the only way to save our communities. You may as well clap because you know it's the truth. I don't want to keep you long. I just want you to know this. We are starting to coalesce with other national organizations. The U.S. Black Chamber has already stepped up, and they're getting all of their chambers and their members to start looking at you to handle their money. The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation saw what was going on out there. The NBA has created incredible energy in these last few years. They decided to invest, or I shouldn't say invest, they purchased CDs in 5 of our banks, but they told us this is just the beginning. In a matter of days, we're going to be meeting with church leaders who are involved with an economic empowerment movie, Doyle, that you know about, with Reverend Weaver. Our goal is to get church leaders all over the country to say, wait a second, we're handling billions of dollars. Why aren't we putting that money in these banks? Why aren't we telling all of our members to put their money in these banks? We're going to push this thing, you all. It's not going to be easy. I know sometimes when we look at each other in frustration and we wonder just how much progress we're making. Let me tell you all as an outsider, because I am not a banker, you are making incredible progress. Don't look at just the bottom line right now. Look at who's listening to you in Washington, D.C. You are now a priority. When you have folks like Bob Mooney inside the FDIC telling them that these banks are critically important and we should use all of our power to support them, you are being heard. When Doyle and I sit down with the comptroller of the currency, and he understood it was important to get a guidance out to all the mega banks that, yes, you will receive CRA credit for investing in these banks, but we went beyond that. From that conversation came the idea to go to Ways and Means and see if we could get a new piece of legislation to give tax credit to these big banks. All of this, my friends, is coming because you didn't give up. I know when we went through that recession, and Bob, I think we started together looking at the numbers of the failing banks, and we were worried about how many of our banks would be eaten up. But we were not going to be overcome with fear. We decided, and Doyle has continued, we're not going to think about fear, we're going to think about possibilities. We're going to do everything we can in Washington to make sure that the message is heard, that the law of the land is to preserve these banks. And you know what? If we're able to make you stronger, and we will, you will be able to make the communities that you serve stronger, and that is our goal. God bless you all.